I've always hated these galas. The chandeliers burn too bright, the champagne tastes like sugar water, and every smile I receive feels bought. But tonight, I told myself it was different. Tonight was for the students. For the kids like I used to be, broke, overlooked, desperate for someone to believe in them. The camera light on my phone blinked red. Streaming live. Tens of thousands watching. My voice was steady as I lifted the mic. For every young mind in this room, know this, your circumstances don't define you. I was nothing once. A ghost in this city. And now, I stand here because someone took a chance on me. That's why this foundation exists. To give you the chance I had. The audience clapped. I scanned the tables, spotting faces I'd come to know, students who'd fought through hell just to be here tonight. My eyes landed on her. Lena Torres. 21. Bright, sharp, relentless. The first student I ever sponsored. I'd watched her go from a timid freshman in worn-out shoes to a confident speaker who could hold a crowd. My pride. My reminder of why I built all this. I smiled at her across the room. She didn't smile back. Instead, she stood up. Her phone was already raised, streaming, her face burning with something I couldn't read. Anger, fear, triumph. And then she spoke. You want to know the truth about Adrian Hale? Her voice cut through the hall like glass. The clapping died. He's not a savior. He's a predator. He harassed me, used his power to control me. And now he hides behind this charity like it erases what he's done. The words didn't register at first. My brain stalled, like an engine choking on smoke. The crowd gasped. Someone dropped a glass. My phone trembled in my hand. Harassment. Me. The cameras shifted, hundreds of eyes narrowing. The live stream counter on my screen spiked, 50,000, 60, 70. Hashtags exploded in real time. Hashtag expose Hale, hashtag fake savior, hashtag justice for Lena. My throat went dry. Lena, I started, voice strangled, what are you? Don't you dare pretend, she snapped, her eyes locked on me, blazing with conviction. Or was it a performance? I couldn't tell. You think money erases everything, Adrian? You think being the city's richest man makes you untouchable? The room swirled. Students shifted uneasily, reporters scribbled like vultures, phones raised to capture every flicker of my face. I wanted to shout, to deny, to drag her aside and ask why. Why was she doing this? Why was she tearing down the very man who paid her tuition, who sat with her through late-night panic attacks before exams, who believed in her when nobody else even knew her name? But my body betrayed me. I froze. The applause had turned to murmurs, suspicion curling in the corners of the room. My empire, years of sweat, strategy, and sacrifice, was collapsing in real time, not because of numbers or market crashes, but because of one voice. Hers. And deep down, a darker thought clawed at me. She knew exactly where to stab. I didn't sleep that night. Not a second. The city outside my penthouse glittered like a kingdom I no longer owned. My name was already plastered across every headline. My lawyers called, my board called, even my estranged father called, but I ignored them all. All I saw was Lena's face. All I heard was her voice, sharp as a blade, slicing through everything we had built together. It wasn't always like this. I remember the first day I met her. She was standing in the corner of the campus library, clutching a stack of used textbooks she couldn't afford. Her shoes were scuffed, her hands ink-stained. Most people overlooked her. But I saw her. I saw myself, 10 years younger, scraping together scraps, fighting the silence of being invisible. That's why I chose her. Out of dozens of applicants, I signed my name on her scholarship papers without hesitation. I thought, she'll never have to feel what I felt. And I kept that promise. There were nights she called me in tears before finals, convinced she wasn't good enough. I'd sit across from her in empty classrooms, walking her through case studies, teaching her how to dismantle problems step by step. My empire didn't need me then, she did. And I was proud to give her that. When her mother got sick sophomore year, I paid the hospital bills quietly, no press, no credit. The look in her eyes when she found out, it wasn't gratitude exactly. It was a relief, like I'd pulled her out of a storm. I told myself that was enough. And when she stood on stage last year, accepting an award for top student, she called me her mentor. Her second family. She hugged me so tight I thought she'd never let go. Now I replay that memory, and it feels poisoned. Did she mean it then? Or was it practice? The betrayal cuts deeper because she wasn't just another student on the list. She was the first. My proof that this foundation mattered, that I mattered. She was supposed to be the one who carried the torch, the living testament that second chances change lives. Instead, she lit it and burned me with it. And maybe that's what twists the knife most of all, she knew exactly where my scars were. She knew the boy I used to be, the one who starved and stole and clawed his way up. She knew I never wanted another child to suffer that way. And still, she chose to destroy me. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling, the shadows stretching long across the room. For the first time in years, I don't feel like the richest man in the city. I feel like that boy again, powerless, cornered, betrayed. But this time, I won't be the one who breaks. The headlines weren't even cold when his face appeared. Damien Cross. Of course. The man has haunted my career since the day I bought my first company. A shark in silk suits, always smiling like he already owned the room. He's built an empire of hostility and charm, equal parts venom and honey. And now, he's suddenly at Lena's side, draping an arm around her like he's her savior. The news outlets couldn't get enough of it. CEO Damien Cross calls for justice for brave students. Cross Foundation backs Lena Torres after harassment accusations. I watched the clips on loop in my office, jaw clenched. Lena sat beside him, speaking softly into microphones, her eyes downcast like a rehearsed performance. Damien would glance at her with practiced sympathy, then pivot to the cameras, his voice smooth as poison. "This is bigger than one man," he declared. "This is about accountability. About protecting students from powerful figures who think money shields them from consequences." The crowd ate it up. He looked noble. She looked broken. And I looked like the villain. But something in her eyes unsettled me. I've known Lena long enough to read her. She was never meek. She had fire, grit, a tongue sharp enough to draw blood. Yet on stage with Damien, she looked muted. As if the fire had been smothered into smoke. Whispers began to swirl. Investors muttered about Damien's involvement. Students in the foundation hinted that Lena had been meeting with him long before the gala. Nothing concrete, only fragments, dinners, secret phone calls, visits to his office downtown. I wanted proof. I needed it. But all I had were shadows. Still, my gut knew. Damien's fingerprints were all over this. It wasn't enough for him to beat me in business. He wanted to gut me in public, strip away the one thing I held untouchable, the foundation. My legacy. I leaned forward in my chair, watching the footage of him placing a hand on Lena's shoulder, tilting his head toward the cameras like a king parading his prize. It made me sick. This wasn't just about her betrayal anymore. It was about his hand guiding hers, his voice feeding her lines, his ambition fueling her accusations. But until I had proof, I was trapped, bleeding in the open while Damien smiled, clean and untouchable. For the first time, I wasn't sure if I was fighting Lena, or the man in the shadows behind her. The boardroom smelled of panic. Coffee gone cold, sweat hidden under expensive cologne, the sharp tang of fear. My board members sat stiff around the polished oak table, their faces pulled taut like masks. Behind the glass walls, I could see journalists swarming the lobby, their cameras flashing every time an intern dared to open the door. "Adrian, this is untenable," one of the older board members snapped, his hands slamming against a stack of newspapers. My face was on every front page. Predatory CEO, fallen philanthropist, fraud in a suit. Another cleared her throat, cautious but cutting. "The investors are calling non-stop. They want reassurance, something more than silence. If we don't contain this, the foundation will collapse. And with it, your empire. My empire. My life's work, reduced to whispers of scandal and half-truths." I leaned back, letting their voices blur into a dull roar. Apologies, denials, PR strategies, they all wanted me to play the script of the guilty man clawing for redemption. But I couldn't do it. I wouldn't. Then the door opened. And there she was. Lena. She walked in with Damien's lawyer at her side, her chin tilted just enough to look confident, her phone recording like always. My board froze, the room shrinking into silence. She didn't even glance at them. Her eyes locked on mine. Cold. Rehearsed. Like we were strangers meeting for the first time. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Memories of her younger self, smiling, eager, eyes burning with hope, collided with the reality in front of me. She wasn't the girl I'd helped. She was someone else now. Someone scripted. "Adrian," she said evenly, It's over. Step down from the foundation. Let the truth come out. The lawyer at her side shifted, smug. My board shifted too, eyes darting, already weighing what survival meant for them. I felt the pressure rising, their judgment pressing into my chest. Begging would be easy. Pleading innocence, promising change, letting them salvage their reputations at the cost of mine. That was what everyone wanted. But I didn't. I stood, slow and deliberate, the chair scraping back. My gaze stayed on hers, unblinking. I won't step down, I said, my voice low but steady. And I won't beg for forgiveness for something I didn't do. A flicker, just a flicker, in her eyes. Something human. A crack in the armor. Then it was gone. You'll regret this, she whispered, too low for anyone else to hear. Maybe I would. But not in the way she thought. I turned to the board, ignoring the lawyer, ignoring the cameras outside the glass. You want answers? Fine. I'll get them. But not here. Not tonight. This isn't about saving face, it's about the truth. And at that moment, I decided. I wasn't going to grovel for a mercy she'd never give me. I wasn't going to let Damien script my downfall. I was going to find out why Lena turned on me. And when I did, the city would see who the real predator was. My voice wasn't my own anymore. Every word I'd spoken at the gala, every sentence I'd offered to the students, was clipped, spliced, and twisted into weapons. Viral edits painted me as a monster, a slow-motion smile cut over Lena's accusation, a half-sentence from a different speech stitched to sound like a confession. They don't define you. I own you. That's not what I said. But it's what the world believed. The numbers on my screen didn't lie, millions of views, hashtags trending globally, influencers dissecting me like vultures on a carcass. To them, I wasn't Adrian Hale, the man who clawed his way out of poverty to build something lasting. I was just another headline. Another scandal. Another villain. By the third morning, the protest began. I heard it before I saw it, chants rising like thunder outside the foundation headquarters. From my office window, the street was a sea of students holding signs. Protect students, not CEOs. Shut down Hale Foundation. My name is painted in red across cardboard, dripping like blood. I could have called security. I could have shut the doors and drowned them out. Instead, I watched. Some shouted with rage, their voices hoarse. Others looked uncertain, as if following the current because it was easier than standing still. And then there were the cameras, always cameras, hungry to catch me flinching, to capture my downfall in high definition. Inside, my staff panicked. Phones rang non-stop, lawyers pacing, PR teams begging me to make a statement, to cry, to apologize, to give the world the performance it craved. But I stayed silent. Silence was my weapon. My shield. Because panic would confirm guilt. Anger would feed their fire. But silence unsettled them. I sat by the window, hands folded, staring down at the chanting crowd. Some of them met my gaze from below, shouting louder, hoping I'd break. But I didn't move, didn't speak, didn't blink. And I knew word of my composure would spread. Why isn't he saying anything? Why doesn't he deny it? What's he hiding? Good. Let them wonder. Every empire I've built has been born in chaos. And though this storm threatened to tear me apart, I could feel something shifting in the current. Damien wanted me desperately. Lena wanted me humiliated. Instead, I was calm. And calm, in a war like this, is terrifying. The city was quiet for once. Midnight had wrapped the skyline in velvet, the protests finally dissolved into silence. My office felt hollow, echoing with the phantom noise of the chants that had filled the day. That's when my phone rang. Her name lit the screen, Lena Torres. For a moment, I just stared at it. My chest tightened, my thumb hovering over decline. But curiosity, or maybe weakness, won. I pressed accept, holding the phone to my ear, every muscle coiled tight. Her voice cracked the silence. Adrian. It wasn't the sharp, weaponized tone from the press conferences. It wasn't rehearsed. It was softer, uncertain, like the Lena I used to know. Why are you calling me? My voice came out steady, though my pulse hammered. She breathed out, shaky. I needed to hear you. Off the record. No cameras. No lawyers. A part of me wanted to believe it. That she was still the girl who once called me at 2 a.m. terrified of failing an exam. That she remembered everything we'd fought for. But another part of me, the part carved raw by betrayal, stayed cold. So talk. Silence stretched, heavy, like she was fighting herself. Then, you don't understand what it was like, being under you, always owing you, always feeling like I was just, your project. Her words pierced deeper than I expected. I gripped the edge of my desk until my knuckles whitened. I never owned you, Lena. I helped you. She let out a bitter laugh. Help? You think that's what it felt like? No. It felt like chains. Like every success I had was tied to your name. I couldn't breathe without people saying Adrian Hale made her. You'll never control me again. Control. That word rattled inside me. She wasn't talking about fame. She wasn't talking about money. This wasn't Damien's manipulation alone, it was personal. A war between her pride and my loyalty. I closed my eyes, forcing my tone calm. So this is what it's about. Not justice. Not the truth. Just you cutting me out so you can finally stand alone. Another pause. And for a heartbeat, I swore I heard guilt in her silence. Then it hardened. You'll see soon enough. Good night, Adrian. The line went dead. I sat there in the dark, the weight of her words pressing down. This wasn't about headlines or hashtags anymore. This was about her breaking free from the shadow she thought I cast. And that meant the fight between us would be blood deep, not fame deep. Maya burst into my office just after dawn, her hair tied in a messy knot, her eyes burning with the kind of fire only bad news, or dangerous news, could light. She didn't knock. She never did. I found something. Those 3 words snapped me out of my sleepless haze. I straightened in my chair, every nerve alert. Show me. She slid her laptop across my desk, the screen glowing with an email thread. My heart thudded as I skimmed the subject line. Sponsorship agreement, confidential. And there it was. Damien Cross. Lena Torres. Promises written in black and white. Funding. A speaking tour. A guaranteed spot on his foundation's advisory board. National interviews. All in exchange for one thing, her public accusation. I stared at the words, the bile rising in my throat. The lawyer in me noted the legal weight of it. The strategist in me saw the weapon this could become. But the man in me, the one who had once sat beside Lena in an empty classroom, convincing her she was smart enough, strong enough, he broke. Because it was proof. Proof she had betrayed me not just out of pride, but for power. For the spotlight. For Damien's promises of fame. And yet, it also proved she chose it. Deliberately. Consciously. No manipulation could force her fingers to type, "I'll do it," in that reply. I clenched my fists. My reflection on the screen looked foreign, eyes hollow, jaw tight. Send me everything, I told Maya, my voice low. Every email. Every attachment. Back it up on 3 drives and keep one for yourself. She hesitated. Adrian, this is damning. Once we release this, it'll burn her. Completely. I should have felt triumphant. I should have savored the vindication. But instead, the weight of it pressed heavier on my chest. I didn't want to destroy her. God help me, I wanted her to have been innocent. Misguided. Confused. Anything but this. I leaned back, pressing my palms over my face. Images of her flashed like cruel film reels, Lena laughing over cheap takeout boxes after late-night tutoring, Lena calling me family when I paid for her mother's care. Lena gripping the scholarship letter with tears in her eyes. All of it, stained now. Maya's voice softened. She played you, Adrian. She let Damien buy her. I dropped my hands, staring at the evidence again. My chest ached, but my mind hardened. Then we show the world. No mercy. Maya nodded, but her eyes lingered on me with quiet worry. She saw what I refused to admit, that I wasn't just fighting for my name. I was grieving. Vindicated, yes. But crushed all the same. Because the proof didn't erase the betrayal. It carved it into stone. The lecture hall hummed with energy when I walked in. 100 students packed shoulder to shoulder, their eyes fixed on the stage. On her. Lena stood at the podium, bathed in the warm glow of the spotlight. She looked comfortable there, confident, righteous, her voice carrying across the room like a preacher's. We can't let men like Adrian Hale dictate our futures, she declared, her fist curling around the mic. We are more than the money they dangle in front of us. We don't need saviors. We need freedom. The room erupted in applause. Some rose to their feet. Phones recorded every word, eager to broadcast her fury across the city. And then I stepped forward. The applause died in an instant. All eyes turned toward me as I walked down the aisle, calm, deliberate. My presence was a crack in the performance, and she saw it. Her jaw tensed, but she didn't falter. "Mr. Hale," she said, her tone dipped in venom. "I didn't expect you to show your face here." I climbed the steps to the stage, standing just a breath away. I didn't need the microphone. My voice was low, but it carried. "Interesting speech," I said. "Full of conviction. Shame it doesn't match your emails." The room buzzed like an electric current. Her eyes flashed, the mask slipping for half a second. Then she straightened, forcing her voice steady. "What emails?" I pulled a printed page from my coat pocket and held it up. The students leaned forward, hungry. "The ones where you promised Damien Cross loyalty in exchange for money, fame, spotlight. Tell me, Lena, was that part of your fight for freedom too?" Her face hardened. "Fabrications. Lies you cooked up to save yourself. Lies." I stepped closer, lowering my voice until only she could hear. "Then why does the reply come from your university email account, Lena? Why does it carry your words, 'I'll do it'?" She flinched. Not much. Just a tremor in her composure. But I saw it. The students murmured louder now, doubt creeping into their cheers. Some pulled out their phones, searching, desperate for proof. I wanted her to break. To admit it. To crumble under the weight of truth. But instead, she squared her shoulders, lifted the mic, and fired back. "You can forge papers, Adrian. You can twist stories. But you can't erase what you are. A man who built power by controlling others. You'll never control me again." The applause returned, scattered but sharp. She drowned the doubt with volume, with passion. And the crowd wanted to believe her, wanted the drama of the victim and the villain. I looked at her one last time, my chest tight. The Lena I once knew was buried under this performance, and maybe she wasn't coming back. I turned to leave, my voice trailing behind me. "The truth always finds its way through the cracks, Lena. And when it does, I won't have to say a word." The students' eyes followed me as I walked out, whispers chasing my back. She had won the stage. But I knew, this wasn't over. For weeks, I let them tear me apart. Headlines, tweets, live streams, all painting me as the villain. Every lawyer, every PR consultant begged me to fight back, to release the emails, to crush Lena publicly. But something in me resisted. Destroying her might have cleared my name, yes. But it would have chained me to her forever. I didn't want my legacy written beside hers in scandal. I wanted something larger, something untouchable. So I stopped fighting her. And I built something new. We stripped the Hale Foundation name from the letterhead. I told Maya to torch every glossy poster with my face on it. No more photos of me shaking hands with students, no more press releases quoting me like some messiah. Instead, we launched quietly, the New Horizons Scholarship. Anonymous donors. Anonymous leadership. No spotlight. No savior. At first, people were suspicious. "Why fund something if your name's not on it?" journalists sneered. But the students didn't care. They saw money flowing to their tuition, stipends arriving without strings attached, workshops opening for anyone who applied. They rallied around it. Word spread like wildfire, not because of my name, but because of what it gave them. Opportunity without debt. Support without the shadow of obligation. And slowly, the tide shifted. The protests shrank. The signs with my name crossed out were replaced by flyers advertising New Horizons. Students who had once screamed outside my office now volunteered at the workshops. Even the media couldn't ignore it. They tried to dig up a face behind the program, but there was none. Only results. Meanwhile, Lena's fire dimmed. Her speeches grew sharper, angrier, but the crowds thinned. Without the monopoly of victimhood, her words rang hollow. She railed against my influence, yet the scholarships were faceless now. She shouted about power, but the students were thriving outside her reach. For the first time in months, I felt air in my lungs again. I wasn't cleared. Not officially. Not legally. But I was no longer drowning. And as I watched students step onto stages, presenting projects, reading essays, accepting scholarships, I realized something bitter and true. I didn't need Lena's approval, or the world's. My name was tarnished. My reputation is shredded. But the work was alive, stronger than before. And that scared Damien more than any headline ever could. Because while they were busy screaming about Adrian Hale, I had become something larger. Something nameless. And nameless is impossible to kill. I wasn't looking for her. The cafe was nothing special, brick walls, low light, the bitter hum of espresso machines. I came here because it was quiet, tucked away from cameras and questions. A place where I could sit with my coffee and pretend, just for a moment, that the city wasn't dissecting my life. And then she walked in. Lena. No podium. No cameras. No crowd to echo her words. Just Lena Torres, 21, her hair loose, her face bare of makeup, her shoulders slumped like she hadn't slept. She froze when she saw me. For a second, her mask slipped. I saw the girl who used to fall asleep in the library while I stayed up tutoring her through calculus. The girl who once cried on the phone because her landlord was threatening eviction, and I wired the money without hesitation. Her lips parted like she wanted to say something. Maybe an apology. Maybe nothing. But her eyes, God, her eyes, betrayed her. Guilt. A flicker of it. Lena, I said quietly. She swallowed hard. Adrian. Her voice was softer than I remembered. No fire. No rehearsed venom. Just her. We stood there, the cafe noise fading into a dull hum. For the first time since the gala, it felt like there were no roles. No CEO. No accuser. Just us. And then he walked in. Damian Cross. Tailored suit, perfect tie, smug grin plastered on his face like he practiced it in the mirror. He spotted me, then her, and his smirk sharpened. Ah, he said, sliding an arm around her shoulders like she was a prize he'd already claimed. Didn't expect to see you here, Hale. Enjoying your exile? Lena stiffened under his touch, but she didn't shake him off. Her eyes flicked between us, guilt, fear, confusion, all smothered under the weight of his hand. I forced a calm smile. Damian. Still collecting broken pieces and calling it art, I see. His jaw tightened, but he kept the smirk. Still bitter. Careful, Adrian. That kind of attitude ruins reputations. I ignored him. My eyes stayed on Lena. You don't need his script, Lena. Not here. Not with me. For a heartbeat, I thought she might step away from him. That she might whisper something, anything, to peel back the lies between us. But Damian squeezed her shoulder, subtle, firm. She straightened, mask sliding back into place. Goodbye, Adrian, she said, her voice flat, rehearsed again. They turned to leave, Damian's hand guiding her like a leash. I watched them go, the bitterness burning deeper than ever. She had looked at me like she wanted to break free. But guilt was not enough. Not yet. I didn't witness it directly. But whispers travel fast in this city, faster than truth, faster than lies. And when the whispers carried Damian's voice, mocking, careless, I knew they were more than rumors. Maya brought me the recording. A shaky phone clip from someone who'd been lingering too long outside Damian's office. His voice was unmistakable, smooth and venomous as ever. She really thinks she's special, he laughed, and laughter followed from whatever lackeys surrounded him. Please. Lena's just a pretty mouthpiece. She screams, the cameras roll, my stock goes up. That's it. Once the fire burns out, so will she. A pause, then a chuckle colder than the first. Naive little thing. Doesn't even realize she's already expendable. The file ended there, but the damage was permanent. I imagined Lena hearing those words, maybe from behind a half-shut door or with her phone pressed to her ear by accident. I imagined her face paling, her chest caving in as the ground tilted under her. Because I knew that feeling. I had lived it the night she stood under the gala lights and accused me, tearing years of trust apart like it was nothing. Her betrayal had sliced deep. But now the blade had turned on her. And for the first time, I wondered if she finally understood. I should have felt vindicated. Triumphant, even. The mighty Lena Torres, once so sure of her role as his perfect pawn, finally seized the bars of her cage. But all I felt was exhaustion. Because betrayal doesn't taste like victory when it comes full circle. It tastes like ash. Maya studied me as I replayed Damian's words, again and again, letting them etch themselves into my memory. What will you do? She asked quietly. I didn't answer. Not yet. Because this wasn't about me anymore. This was about Lena, finally standing in the ruins she'd helped Damian build. And the question was simple, when chains break, do you run free, or do you crawl back to the hand that bound you? I had my suspicions. But I knew soon, very soon, I'd have my answer. It didn't come with fireworks. No breaking news banner, no dramatic showdown. Just a slow drip of screenshots, perfectly timed, perfectly angled. Private messages. Lena's words, her promises, her giddy eagerness to align with Damian in exchange for his funding. Her own voice trapped in text, I'll do whatever it takes if it gets me out of Hale's shadow. He leaked them himself. Damien Cross, the great puppeteer, cutting strings when they were no longer useful. And the city devoured it. The same feeds that once painted her as the martyr now spit her out as a fraud. Hashtags flipped overnight. Hashtag Believe Lena became hashtag Lena the Liar. Her face, once glowing on magazine covers and student posters, was now plastered with captions like exposed and pawn. I sat in my office with a glass of scotch, watching it all unfold. The irony was sharp, almost cruel. I hadn't lifted a finger, didn't release a statement, didn't whisper a word to the press. I didn't need to. Damien had turned on her the moment she outlived her usefulness. Exactly as I knew he would. Maya slid her phone across my desk, the feed still buzzing with venom. Do you want to counterspin this? Issue a statement of your own. The public's softening toward you now. This could be the moment to. No, I said. My voice came out flat, almost calm. Let it burn on its own. Because I felt nothing. No triumph. No satisfaction. Just distance. Once, I would have fought tooth and nail to clear my name. Once, I would have grasped at her collapse like a drowning man clutching a rope. But now I don't need it. I had already shifted. Already built something untouchable. My foundation was thriving without my name. The students were rallying not to me, but to the cause itself. That was survival. That was a legacy. Lena's downfall wasn't my victory. It was her reckoning. And as I sipped the scotch, letting the bitterness settle on my tongue, I realized the strangest truth of all. I was free. Free of her, free of the scandal, free of the need to prove anything. All that remained was the work. And that, finally, was enough. The office looks different now. No portraits of me on the walls. No glossy brochures with my name stamped across them. The New Horizons banner stretches above the entrance, plain, unbranded, almost faceless. Exactly how I wanted it. And yet the place hums with life. Students fill the halls, some nervous, some bold, presenting projects, debating over coffee, chasing opportunities that had once seemed impossible. For the first time, the foundation feels like it belongs to them, not to me. Maya's younger brother, Daniel, is among them. A wiry 19-year-old with too much energy and too little patience. He shakes my hand with both of his eyes burning with gratitude. You don't know what this means, he tells me. I almost tell him I do. That I was once him, hungry and tired, clawing my way up with no one reaching back. But I don't. Instead, I nod and let his words linger. Because maybe he's right. Maybe I don't know what it means for him. And that's the point, it's not about me anymore. Partnerships grow from the soil of this new model. Anonymous donors, transparent accounting, peer-led committees. Every step takes me further from the man I used to be, the CEO on a pedestal, the sponsor holding a leash. Now I'm just a figure in the background, an architect who doesn't need to stand on the stage. And then Lena walks in. Not with cameras. Not with Damien. Just her. Alone. Her hair is unkempt, her eyes hollowed out by weeks of ridicule. The sharpness is gone from her posture, her voice small when she speaks. Adrian, she says, her throat tight. I need to say I'm sorry. The room falls silent around us. Students watch, whispering, sensing history in the air. I study her, the girl who once accused me beneath a spotlight, who traded loyalty for ambition, who let Damien turn her into a weapon. Her apology trembles on her lips, but it doesn't move me. Not anymore. Lena, I reply, calm, measured, detached. You don't owe me an apology. You owe it to yourself. She blinks, startled. Maybe she expected anger, or a chance at absolution. But I have no interest in either. You made your choices, I continue. So did I. And now we live with them. That's all there is. For a moment, guilt flickers in her eyes, raw and unfiltered. But then she looks down, nods once, and turns to leave. I won't stop her. Because this world, the one I've built, isn't about Lena Torres anymore. It's not about her betrayal or her apology. It's about the students laughing in the next room, the projects pinned to the walls, the future growing louder with each step away from the shadows. This is my new world. And in it, I don't need her. The city looks different from up here. My office windows stretch across the skyline, glass and steel catching the last light of day. Once, I thought this view defined me, the wealth, the height, the empire at my feet. But now I see it for what it is, a reminder of how far I've climbed, and how easily I could have fallen. I remember the night of the gala as if it were yesterday. Lena's voice cracking through the microphone, her words sharp enough to draw blood. The flash of cameras, the roar of the crowd, the sudden plunge from power to suspicion. For months, that moment was my prison. Every replay on the news was another chain around my neck. Every headline is another nail. I lived suffocating under betrayal. But I'm not suffocating anymore. Because I learned something in the ashes: power isn't in clearing your name. Power is in surviving without needing to. The New Horizons scholarship thrives without me at the front of it. Students rise on their own, lifting each other, building something that will last long after my face is forgotten. Maya, Daniel, countless others, they are the proof. And Lena? Her chapter is closed. I don't hate her. Not anymore. She was a scar carved into my life, one I'll carry as long as I breathe. But scars don't fade for a reason. They remind us who we were, what we endured, and what we'll never allow again. Some scars don't fade, I whisper to the empty office, the words hanging in the glass and steel. But they remind me who I am. The city sees me now with new eyes. Not just the richest CEO. Not the man accused. But the man who refused to break, who turned betrayal into a foundation stronger than any accusation. I sipped the last of my drink, watching the light spark alive across the skyline. Each one a story, a future, a promise. And for the first time in years, I feel untouchable. Not because of the money. Not because of the power. But because I know now, no lie, no rival, no betrayal will ever define me again. I define myself. And that is enough.